Phoebe Chi has been training as an opera singer since age 15. Last year, the 22-year-old soprano started a degree course at the San Francisco Conservatory of Music. But midway through, her studies were disrupted by the pandemic. She's now back in Singapore and getting ready for the new academic year online.
Our school allows us to go back to classes because it's a hybrid model anyway. But for me, I'm a bit afraid. I feel like it's maybe a little bit more safer in Singapore.
According to a survey by Global Education Network, QS, many international students are choosing to defer their studies to the next year due to the COVID-19 pandemic.
The deferral is more around safety, but it's also around access to visas. So in a lot of countries, it's actually quite hard to get hold of visas right now. In China, for example, the government is issuing some guidelines to students and discouraging study in some countries.
Globally, there are over 5.3 million students pursuing higher education abroad. They typically choose schools in the United States, the United Kingdom, China, Canada, and Australia. Experts say immigration policies, the perception of safety amid the pandemic, and flexibility will be key for universities to survive the downturn.
Salaries and benefits of the faculty represent, in general, about 2/3 of costs for many universities. And it's very difficult during a pandemic to adjust those costs. It is important to find the savings where they can in order to offset whatever revenue pressures that they face.
So far, online tours and webinars have become essential in how universities interact with potential candidates.
It's efficient and effective. And I think there's also going to be more digital communication, digital content, virtual university tours, so that students don't have to fly in beforehand to view a campus, but can actually view it remotely.
Tsinghua University in China was among the first to go on emergency online teaching mode back in February. Researchers in the university are now looking into how the faculty and student experience will define higher education in the future.
Virtual universities, walk-up universities, universities in the cloud, all sorts of ideas are coming out. People often buy an experience, they buy knowledge, they buy a credential, and in many instances, people buy a right to live in another or work in another country. And a big part of what universities will do is entirely geared towards the sort of expectations employers have.
Redesigning university education could combine online learning, industry immersion, and research focus in the course of a 4-year degree. Such a hybrid setup could spur experimentation in how fees are paid and how courses are designed.
There are models where students don't pay up front for their education, but pay through their future earnings. There are other models emerging where employers pay when they hire the student and the unbundling of a degree. So it may be that you pay for part of your degree at one institution and the balance at another institution.
Certificate courses may also see a boom, leading to a rethink on whether college degrees should remain a prerequisite for hiring.
Online learning, very functional. It can help students access materials. Some students behave very differently online than they do in the classroom, but it doesn't necessarily lead to those really important forms of transformation and development that we expect, particularly at the very top end of our professional fields. And that's where higher education is most special.
So, as online learning becomes the norm, is it still worth paying for overseas education?
The reality is that delivering a really high quality and engaging online education isn't necessarily much cheaper than the cost of delivering a campus-based program. I do think that there will be the ability to offer some lower cost incentives for study online. It may only be though 10 or 20%. So I think student expectations need to be set that, combining online and campus learning may be slightly cheaper, but not dramatically cheaper.
We've never been properly able to price, in a commercial sense, higher education, because by any measure, even when it's completely overpriced, it returns enormous value to the person who partakes in it.
For aspiring diva Phoebe, tuition and other fees add up to about $47,000. She's got a partial scholarship and also needs to cover her own living expenses.
Going overseas to me is more like a privilege, an extra on top of what I have done and experienced in Singapore. I've already invested 1 year into that, so quitting is really not an option.
Being in Singapore means Phoebe is saving on rent. But despite that, she still says being able to return to the school's physical campus in California will be music to her ears.